What's up, guys?
Hey, Coach, how are you?
Good.
Yes. So, what's the focus been like in practice? You know, you're coming out after a game where, you know, if you hone in on the details, if you limit the penalties, you know, lining up wrong, false starts or whatever, you have an opportunity to be in that game. So, I know it's been kind of a recurring theme this season. How do you address that in the week of practice to limit those to make sure they don't happen again?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of, encouraged while we're discouraged, not getting the results that we want the last couple weeks. A lot of positive silver linings, but those don't always equate to winning football games. So we go back to practice. That's the only thing that we really can control is how we practice, how we prep. And so yesterday, as we brought the guys in, just re-explain to them almost every drill that we have and what we're trying to get done, because I think that's what it comes down to. In the critical moment, not executing, I think that comes down to how we practice and where the intentionality is.
Where do you think you are after 6 games at quarterback? It seems like you're where you were coming out of camp, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of those things are, kind of what you expect going into the season. It's not always going to be windshield wiper clean in relationship to the health of each individual player, particular quarterback. Obviously tough to be in a clean continuity at this point in the season, but I don't think we're a lot different than most teams. Some teams have had to play multiple guys. Where we're at right now is really wait and see to what the next couple of days look like for getting into this game. And no matter what guy we roll out there with, we need to be able to go execute. So it's not really something that we can spend a lot of time and dwell on because a lot of that stuff's really out of our control. But we'll try to do our best in practice to try to get the reps with each individual. At this point in the season, we're really talking about bank reps already built in, so we need to really hone in on those things and make sure we're highlighting our players with the plays that we call, the schemes that we design for each week, that there's carryover for previous weeks.
What did you see from Cam that you liked most?
Hard not to say that was fun to watch that guy just play tough. I mean, he got hit a lot. A lot of it was because he was extending plays out, but he showed resiliency. He's a foxhole guy, and so that was good to see. Now we just need to be a little bit better of executing in the critical moment.
Kind of on that note, Coach Frost mentioned that this is the first time all the quarterbacks in the room are healthy since going into the Jacksonville State game. Now when it's a tough decision up ahead, what are you most looking for throughout this week of practice to say that this certain guy is going to be the starter, knowing that you see what they can do in a full game now?
Yeah, without being too cliche, it comes down to consistency, and it's not just how a guy throws the football, it's not just his timing, it's not just his feet, it's not just how he is in the huddle, it's not just how he carries himself in his prep, it's all those things combined. And so we need a little bit more time as we get through the week. And you mentioned availability, different than being 100% healthy, right? And at times you got to play hurt in football. This is a physical game. There's a certain level of toughness that's a prerequisite that comes in being a football player, which all the guys have. And, Cam really put that, he illustrated in a good way what it means to be on the top end of that, being extremely tough and critical in tough times. So we take all those things into account, and it's a wait-and-see game right now where we're at here sitting on Tuesday.
You guys have had 12 drives this year of 10 plays or longer. As those drives go on, what's the challenge as a play caller to kind of keep them going and to not stall out and then to finish the drives? So what's that missing piece to make these things count?
Yeah, that's a great question about how to continue to keep long drives going. I mean, the easy answer is let's be explosive and let's score in less than 10 plays, which credit to the guys. One thing that was an encouragement was they executed the game plan in the sense that we needed to be able to put drives together and limit 3 and outs, which we haven't won in the game, and we look back on that, and that was really a third down conversion that we should have executed. But those long drives are good in the sense that we were able to control the clock and won the time of possession. That stuff's great. One thing that we forgot to do was score touchdowns, score points when it's most critical. It's hard to win a game when you're not scoring enough, when you're not scoring over 20 points. That's what they score when you have one more than them. But in relationship to the question, how do you address that? Well, yeah, it's multi-layered. You'd like to have one play call that you kind of have in your pocket that's, okay, for sure based on, the scheme that we're looking at, we feel really good about us being able to execute that and make an explosive happen, maybe score. But also that it comes down to the accountability of executing simple things at simple times. And that's where we're kind of inconsistent, and there's times where we look great and we can put a 20-play drive together. Now let's finish.
Do you feel like there's a momentum or a mood swing at like when a drive like that finishes and you're punting it, like the one drive in the third quarter stands out, 4th and 27, you're punting it after going 17 plays on that drive.
Yeah, it's usually just one mistake, you know. Got 11 guys on the field, we'll all have to do our job. And it's simple. I know it's cliche, but we all have to just do our job. The penalties are generally the ones that have really hurt us. You don't get to 3rd and 27 without going backwards, and you just can't do that. So sometimes it's taking the simple and easy play, make the easy plays. The other thing is, you know, there's a moment of just being poised in those situations, which we talked a lot about. And the encouraging thing is we're getting some of these young guys, some of these guys with youth and inexperience, they're getting the experience. So at some point, it has to click over. And we don't know when that's going to be. So we have to approach it every day of practice, every day of preparation and meetings with the expectation that it's right around the corner. So don't be surprised when it happens. And there's been minutes and moments of that during the season so far. We just have to make it more consistent. And that's all things. You know, that's coaching, that's how we practice, that's getting the ball to the right person at the critical time. Next guy coming up because someone has to go to the sideline and get Gatorade or deal with something. We need more than just 11. It's a lot more than 11 just on offense, defense, and special teams. The expectation is next man up, and nobody's making any excuses. Everyone will look you in the eye and say, okay, this is where we got to be better, which is a cool thing, and that's encouraging.
Coach, yesterday Cam Kinney kind of spoke on Danny Hope's role, and he said that it was kind of like an angel of Clark in the room. I mean, how has Hope been for you guys, especially at this midway point?
Yeah, I haven't heard that, and that's really, really good analogy. Because of his relationship with Coach Clark and how close they were and their tight bond, you see a lot of the same things in relationship to how he carries himself, the coaching points, even the manner and cadence in which he speaks is similar. So, I could definitely see why Cam said that. And for us as a coaching staff, it's been really nice to have someone in the room that not only is Sean-like, but also he's brings a lot of, I don't know what the word is, but probably brings a lot of knowledge and is a good guy to lean on for the rest of the offensive staff.
I just want to follow that up because Coach Frost also said that West Virginia's staff sent letters in regards to Coach Clark, and I just didn't know if you had any if you knew about that or if what your thoughts were on that.
Pretty much everyone that I know in this profession and some people that I haven't got the chance to meet that had a relationship with Coach Clark have reached out. I think that just speaks volume to who he is as a person, who he was as a person, and the impact he had on a lot of people. And that's not just something that goes away. That's something that lasts a lifetime.
How good was it to have Dylan Wade back available? I know he tried to go the previous week. He wasn't maybe 100%, but it seemed like he was a little bit more healed up and it made an impact.
Yeah, it was good to have him back. It helps the depth at the tight end position. That's probably the most important thing so that we're getting the appropriate amount of reps. But it's good to have one of your playmakers back, and I expect him to even be more involved and more ready to play just because he's got another week and he had a game under his belt and he's still getting healthy. But he's looking a lot better, and we're excited to have him back.
Coach, in the first half against Cincinnati, Cam Fancher had 139 total yards, the rest of the team just 16. Is it more of a point of emphasis to kind of spread the ball around with different players on offense, or is that just kind of a game flow type of game?
There's obviously going to be game flow and adjustments because they're going to get different looks in practice, but a lot of the reason why Cam had so much of the productivity had to do with the scheme we were dealing with, which is, a bend but don't break, and they did a good job executing their scheme. Hats off to Cincinnati. They have a good scheme, and they did a good job with that. Every week we're trying to spread the ball around, and that doesn't always mean run-to-pass ratio. That means getting the ball to the Z, to the X, to the F, to the T, to the Y, and obviously the quarterback. So that is something that we are mindful of, and we got to continue to make sure that happens.
Coach, piggybacking off of that, aside from Cam's rushing the backfield was a bit limited as far as production-wise against Cincinnati. Just what were you witnessing, whether it was from the offensive line standpoint or from the backfield?
Yeah, to give you probably a more specific answer with what Cincinnati was doing with their scheme is, they, even though they were playing with a 3 deep shell, they were applying a lot of hats into the run fit, which lends an advantage in the RPO game, and we executed some, and we didn't execute the others. Bottom line is we go back and look at it. It really didn't have anything to do with why we stuttered out. Those were the self-inflicted issues. As the penalties, it was the drop passes, the misalignment in a critical situation. So those are things that we could control, not necessarily Cincinnati. Hats off to them, but we just got to execute our stuff.
Back on the penalties, 9 false starts through the last 2 games. Is there a through line that explains that you study the film and you look at it, that you make some sense of why it's happening? And how can you correct it? You say go back to practice, but when you have that penalty over and over again, what do you do? What do you change?
You practice better, and I hate to give you an answer that's that simple, but that's what it is. When you fall start in practice, it's not surprised that that's going to happen in the game.
Do you see it in practice?
Not as much as is in the game. So really that relates to the critical moment. So what do we do with practice? We try to create more intense moments in practice, and that's what we did a good job of today, and our guys handled it well. You get this point in the season, it can't be blood and guts for 3 hours of practice. If you do that, you're not going to be able to roll out with much of a football team on Saturdays. But there has to be moments in practice and periods in practice where we are getting, a shot of that. And for the most part, as coaches, we felt like that's been pretty good. And sometimes it's just a good and easy thing to do is just reframe practice, adjust a couple of things with the periods so that you can highlight those things that we need to be in. Because it's not like it's always the same person. It's generally, why'd that happen? Okay, so we got to go back to practice. We got to practice cleaner and smoother. That was one of our bullet points as an offensive staff. We need to be smooth. And at times we really were, and other times we resorted back to the way it looked the last couple of weeks. So again, how do you address that? We got practice better.
Coach, on a similar note to that, the team has struggled with penalties the past few weeks. You guys are taking the steps in practice, but what do you think isn't translating to on the field? I know we've mentioned poise before, but what else is possibly not clicking?
Yeah, without having a crystal ball and really peel back layers into people's brains, I think it comes back to practice. Because I don't know. Yeah, that's what it comes back to. Listen, I certainly am not a witch doctor, and I don't know exactly why a guy does what he does in that critical moment. But if we look back to his preparation and try to find little inches where I can be better as a coach and the assistants can be better as a coach, that's where we're honing in on those things. And no one's panicked. That's the really cool thing about this group. No one's panicked. The belief is strong. The camaraderie is strong. When you go 3 weeks in a row without a win, that's when things get really hard. And tough people do tough stuff at tough times. So that's what we're working on right now.
It feels like a sense of urgency, though, to really clean it up going into the next week.
I would agree. We're always talking about having a sense of urgency, but it's highlighted. And at some point, it has to come from more than just the coaches. It has to come from the players. And I've definitely noticed that the last 48 hours.
With Cam's rushing total last week, a lot of it came on scrambling, a lot of it were off platforms type of stuff, and off script kind of stuff. When you go back and look at the tape, how much of that do you attribute to the receivers maybe not getting open downfield against Cincinnati, and then also with the offensive lineman trying to hold up in the protection?
Yeah, I think for sure that's part of it, I think when you got 8 guys in coverage, it's hard to get open. When you get down and it's late in the game, there's not a whole lot of passes for 3rd and 27 that are going to be really
in the
clean.
first half, though, there's a lot of his yards came in the first half.
Yeah, and we had a couple of huge plays down the field that came back. That hurts. I think it was over 400 yards of offense. Obviously, we had a lot of plays because you kind of end up in a 2-minute mode there at the end of the game, even though it's not 2-minute. So some of those might be a little bit padded. We're not crazy. We look at that as well. But the reality is the plays are there to be had. We have to make the plays. Sometimes it's the quarterback just missing a receiver by an inch. Sometimes it's the pass protection. It's not like we have free runners, so the scheme's good. It's just cleaning those things up. Hats off to Cincinnati again, but the reality is there's not a single thing that they did that we couldn't just executed our jobs. And that's stuff that we're resorting back to practice. Let's turn up the intensity in a period here and a period there and really recenter our focus. And like you said earlier, there's a sense of urgency to do that.
What stands out about West Virginia's defense?
Oh, that chaos. They're not going to line up the same 2 plays in a row. They're going to be a little bit of the opposite in relationship to what we saw last week in the sense that it's not a static 3 high, 8 guys in coverage defense. They will provide that look for us, but they're going to try and get after the quarterback. They're going to try and create some havoc in the run game and the pass game. So a whole different challenge, and I think as Coach Grinch mentioned to you guys early, you just never know when that opportunity is knocking. So we look at this as a great opportunity to turn up the sense of urgency, have a good Wednesday practice since we're done with Tuesday, and then really finish out the week.
All right.
Thanks, guys.